Welcome to this edition of One on One. I'm Caitlin Schiffer. Today we'll be talking with up-and-coming music producer and artist Charlie Salazar, also known as Rawzeal. Raw currently creates music that combines hip-hop, soul, and electronic music. He's working with the independent record label Ironside Records in New York, alongside the collective known as the Crooks. While maintaining his music career, Raw is also an engineering student at Boston University. He recently invited us into his studio to observe his process. Take a look.
So I'm going to take you guys through my creative process. I'm going to essentially show you guys how I build a song from scratch. For the first chord, I think I'm going to start not that intense and just keep it clean. Now I'm going to record some drums. That's essentially going to be the structure of the song. So the song's already 2.5 minutes long, so I'll probably add the hook one more time and then put the outro in and call it a day.
All right, and thanks so much for coming to talk with us on the show, Raw.
Thank you guys, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
First things first, the music that you've produced so far combines a bunch of different genres. So how do you consolidate all of those genres into one song?
More recently I've been getting into rap and a lot of jazz and things like that I really wasn't shown as a kid, because mostly I grew up with like Spanish music. So that Spanish sort of rhythm has always been in my mind. So I kind of really when I make music, I just kind of play or sing or rap whatever comes to me. And because of everything that I've listened to, it just kind of meshes together into some weird sort of salad of things that come out when I essentially improvise and just lay things down.
Yeah, and you had a number of artists that did contribute to that, especially at the music festival, right?
Yeah.
So how did listening to those artists influence you to become what you are today?
Sure. So at Ultra, there was just a bunch of people that were DJing, and they were getting a reaction from a crowd, including myself, that I thought was really beautiful. And they weren't world class musicians type of thing. They were just making songs on a computer and DJing them live. And there was hundreds, not thousands of people in front of them just vibing and loving the sound. And I really just thought to myself, if they can do it, why can't I make music in the same fashion and play it in a way that, evokes a response from people?
Yeah, but that having been said, now, you also, manage a bunch of different roles within your own production. You write songs, you are the producer of music, obviously,
yeah.
And most recently you've also taken to singing on your tracks as well. Mm-hmm. So how do you combine all those elements when you're going through your process to create a final product?
So usually my process starts with the beat and the rhythm, and I usually, because I was my main instrument is the drums, that's really what repeats in my head. That's really what spits out of my head all the time, is just random beats and things like that, and rhythms. So that's usually how I start a song, is really thinking about a rhythm or a melody, and then I lay down the structure of a song, and then once I have the beat finished, I will sit down and listen to it a couple of times. Maybe, export it, go for a walk, listen to it on my earphones. Something that, in some way that I can get inspired by the song to some response that I get naturally from the song. That's really what I'm looking for when I start writing. So I kind of split it up into making the beat and then writing the lyrics. That's kind of how in my mind it works.
So do you see that way of thinking about your process? On the one hand, looking at the logical side of how you break down the rhythm and then, the other elements, versus the more creative side of the lyrics. How do you see those two playing into your process? Because they do kind of compete
Yeah,
at times.
definitely. I think naturally I focus on the technical side because of just the way my brain works. Like, I'm an engineer. That's just like I work in patterns and different, you know, templates almost in my head. And I think that's really, I do that kind of naturally, and I focus really on the creative side of it.
You yourself, as a music producer, your job's completely different than what it would have been like 10 years ago even.
Yeah.
And as a new artist, how do you feel about those changes?
I think, you know, change is something that you can't change. You know, like, change is always gonna happen, and anyone that says otherwise is kind of living in this like romantic like bubble that they've created in their head. You know, I think any artist who's trying to spread their message and become big really has to embrace the change.
So last question, looking to the future, what impact do you want to leave on the music industry as a whole?
Yeah, so I really want people to be themselves. You know, I think there's a lot of fake artists who try to be something they're not, and I don't really, you know, I don't really believe in something like that. It just like defeats the purpose of art. You know, art is about self-expression of like who you really are. It's not about making money. It's not about, you know, like showing off what you have. It's really about self-expression and the connection you can make with people. So I really think it's to inspire others to be more of who they are. That's something that really drives me.
Great, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
And thank you for joining us on this edition of One on One. I'm Caitlin Schiffer. Until next time.